Sahana vavatu, sahano punuktu, saha viryam karavavahai, tejasvinavaditam astu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both. May we work together with great energy. May our studies be illumined. May we not unnecessarily cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace beyond all. So this is Vedanta series, question answer. And already there's a question here because we have a participant here also. But if there are any questions that you want to ask or need to ask, you can formulate them now. And today, of course, is the Tithi Puja. That means the birthday, according to the lunar calendar, of Swami Shivananda, Mahapurush Maharaj, direct disciple of Ramakrishna. And so we have his picture here also. And so I can give you a little bit of insights maybe into whatever I know, but certainly his teachings, and try and interweave his teachings in with any answer I give. So I'm going to mute my microphone so that you can ask any question, and I'll also deal with the question that was asked here.
I would like to find an answer regarding a situation because I always try to deal with situations looking at everyone with love and finding forgiveness. However, it's been very difficult because there is someone in my workplace that seems to be quite obsessed with trying to find the darkness in me. And although I try to stay away from that, it seems that it's following me. So I don't know how to deal anymore with that situation because it's been over 5 months. And it seems that the person is restless. And obviously, we can't stay away from that because this person is in the environment. So I don't know if you have some guidance in how to deal maybe in a better way than what I've been doing.
Okay, so it's wonderful that you approach things in a loving way. Having said that, we also have to admit that, humanly speaking, it's difficult. What makes the difficulty is because the interpretation we have on life in general, that consists of interacting with other people, being in different situations, being in situations which are not standard. In other words, there will always be an irregularity somewhere that will have to deal with. It is the nature of nature itself. It is the only means by which we grow, is to deal with the unexpected things that arise. So what we call nature is full of adventurous curveballs, adventurous new situations that can arise. And then how to deal with it? Well, we deal with it by making our spiritual life solid and firm. What do we mean by spiritual life? It starts with an outlook. Because if we deal with things in a loving way, there must be a basis for doing that. It is not just, a quotation or some kind of remote or impersonal intention, some thing that somebody has told us and we just follow. We have to explore the reason. Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. But then why? Now, Vivekananda himself asked this question, why should we? Is there any reason? Well, several reasons are proposed. Firstly, our outlook is one of individualities, and not of unities. And if we had an outlook that says there is one thing only, then we would soon realize whatever we do, whatever we say, whatever we think is about ourselves and will impact ourselves. Not many people realize that because they mark themselves as an individuality, put a small circle around that and say, this is my world. Well, that's the first thing. But the second thing is that on the other side of this unity, when we explore this unity, there we will find what religion calls God. Or we'll find the unity, the truth that never changes. Now, I've described this in two different ways. I've described this in a personal way, that is a personal way that requires a form. And I've also described it in an impersonal way that is formless. Now, we had a question here earlier with regards to Sri Ramakrishna's statements about formless and with form, and it seems to be confusing, and you have to stick to one thing. You see, when we have a deity or an image of a deity or a concept with form, this is not a random thing, nor is it a tool. It's a reality. But it falls into the relative world of realities. And we have no difficulty accepting the floor, the table, the chair, the person, the car as a reality. Building on that, what is the highest reality we can have? Highest reality we can have is some form that presents itself to us in an inspirational way. It comes to us, it is revealed to us. Now you see there are different forms. One kind of form that has also a corresponding concept will be a non-historical form of God. I'll give you some examples. Shiva, Vishnu, these are non-historical in the sense that these are not beings which we have met in history. They symbolize something which is profound when we meditate on it. And we can relate to it because of the various characteristics, the various values, the various tendency that we have or drawn toward a certain image or a certain concept from our childhood largely. And we have to value that. But all of these are revealed. It is not that Shiva is a myth. It is that Shiva represents an expression from the depth of meditation. Now, the historical side of it will be an incarnation, although we might not see Vishnu as such, unless we have some revelation, some cosmic revelation, such as Arjuna has, 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The whole thing is revealed, and he understands, oh, you are Vishnu. Or Krishna's mother, who opens, where Krishna opens his mouth, and there she sees the entirety, the totality of existence. Then she sees Vishnu. And it is Vishnu that comes as a cosmic balancing power, that aspect of it, that all-pervading entity that sustains our growth, that sustains life. That being is the one that incarnates according to the theology. And so cosmic mind acts as a balancing power and incarnates historically as a Krishna or as a Rama. That's the theology of it. Now, can we relate the theology to a historical fact? Well, even if we dismiss Krishna living 5,000 years ago, Rama living 7,000 years ago, or any of their countless incarnations that come as a natural balancing power that changes everything for the next 2,000 years, including a Jesus, including a Buddha. In our own proximity, we have a being that represents the highest perfection we can know of. We can interpret this being as an incarnation, avatara, or as a supremely holy person, it doesn't really matter. The point is, we have an ideal before us. And having an ideal before us is very, very meaningful. It's very important because every child, for example, will require some model to follow. Whether it's good or bad, they do it anyway. So that if your parents take drugs, you'll be inclined to do that. That's the model you follow. Psychologically, you'll follow this parent script, as it were, and absorb it, unless some independent mindedness evaluates it properly and says, no, I won't do that, but there are some things I will accept. And so for us in this time, I highlight the life of Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna, you can imagine something like a light that comes, because all of these beings, all of these ideals we're talking about, will be teachers. And that is why we say Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai wherever we can, because we are saying that this is a guru, this is somebody who shows us the way by that person's own experience. And when that experience tallies with the revelations from scriptural truths, then we pay attention to that and feel thankful that we've come into the orbit of such a being. Coming into the orbit of such a being, we then have an ideal. We then also have another form of God, a form of that Supreme that was worthy of us to meditate on. And then we also have the teachings, of course. We have the teachings and we have the teacher, and both represent to us a great ideal. You can imagine a light. I'm the light of the world, says Jesus. And then from that, you'll find small lamps. Of course, these lamps actually are not so small. 16 lamps came from Ramakrishna, one of which was Swami Shivananda. Now, Ramakrishna encourages us to keep our minds steady. And that means that we have to have a mixture of principles and practices. And without the practice, the principle is meaningless. And without the other way around, it's also meaningless. So when we look at a person, let's say what we interpret as an awkward person, two things happen, two opportunities are there. We can either see that inside that person who walks and talks, regardless of what comes out of their mouth, walks and talks and lives, is based on a life principle. That life principle is nothing more than the supreme truth, the supreme principle that religion calls God. Your personal ideal dressed up in this way. Recognition of this means we don't have a dark side. A person accessing our dark side in some way is a little bit of a misnomer. Do we have a dark side? Do we have a light side, a dark side? Are we a mixture like that? We might say psychologically it looks like that. But this is all really maybe not so true, because our inherent nature is entirely spiritual. It is full, it is free, it is perfect. And in meditation, we discover that. We contact that. We tune into that. But in daily life and dealing with people, we have to see that principle in others, regardless of what happens. As soon as we see that perfection in others, their whole attitude changes, because that perfection inevitably will flow through. A transformation will take place. Jesus hanging on the cross will forgive everybody. Imagine. So this forgiveness is based on this insight of the perfection within everyone, the kingdom of heaven within, formulated in such a way that our personal ideal is brought out. Either our personal ideal, that is a God with form that we can imagine, that we can pray to, that we can listen to, that we live to, that acts as a constant presence, or an amorphous kind of presence, which is impersonal. And we have to choose which one we like. And in all the conversations that Ramakrishna has, he starts off like that. Do you believe in God with form or without form? Well, I prefer, says Mahendranath Gupta, author of the Gospel of Ramakrishna, I prefer impersonal. That's very good. Ramakrishna never says it's wrong. Very good. But don't forget, God with form is also there. Now he's talking to somebody influenced by a new age, a new dispensation. And an example of that new dispensation is the Brahmo Samaj. All of the young, or most of the young disciples of Ramakrishna, they all came from the Brahmo Samaj. They were inclined toward, and they formed friendships toward the impersonal aspect, thinking that the personal aspect, or the aspect with form, is kind of pagan. It's not very sophisticated. Ramakrishna comes along and says, Kali's form is real. Brahman is also real. Kali is Brahman. Brahman is Kali. This kind of language. And we could easily be confused by it. Now, that is why we have a guru. A guru will say, you follow this line. Don't deviate from this line. Then Ramakrishna himself gives a beautiful story. There was once a man who wanted to dig a well. He wanted to get water. As he was digging, after about 2 meters of digging, some people came along, well-meaning no doubt, and said, oh, I don't know why you're digging a well there. You see that clump of trees there? This is for sure where you'll find water. Immediately he lives off his endeavor and goes there and digs another 2 meters in the new place. So far, no water found. Like that, one after one, well-meaning people come and give their advice. No, not there. You dig over here. And so it goes on. And each place, like a dozen places, he digs down 2 meters, doesn't find any water. So you'll calculate, no doubt, if he had stayed in one place, 12 by 2 meters, 24 meters, he would have struck water. And so this was Ramakrishna's example. Don't change your horses. You know, you can be standing in a very long queue, and the shorter queue is somewhere else. You can decide, oh, let me leave this one and go to that one. Then you discover, oh, the original queue was the shorter queue. In the spiritual life, we have to have faith. We have to have faith means absolute trust. Trust in scripture, trust in guru, trust in ourselves, that the first instinct we have is correct, is right, and we go with it, taking it as part of the effects of our attunement into the divine. We are fully tuned into the divine through prayer, through meditation, through japa. That tuning itself will be something like a recipient position. We'll be receiving automatically all along divine messages, and we'll be taking them, maybe testing them once or twice, but having this faith that divine grace is flowing as thought and arrives at our substation, then we're able then to use it well. We can confirm it a little bit. Are you sure? Yes, of course. Yeah. It reminds me of that story, you see, where a man chased by a wild animal, chased by a lion, finds a cliff. He has no alternative. So he stumbles, he falls off the cliff and manages to hang on to something. Below is another lion smacking his lips, looking up from the person hanging on the cliff. The lion below is a wild beast. From the lion's point of view, is looking up, it's lunch. Then the person looks up into the sky. Lord, I'm sure you're there. You can see my dilemma, and I have faith in you. What should I do? The voice opens itself along with the cloud and says, let go. And there's a great pause, and the man looks up again and says, "Is there anybody else up there?" So you see, we have to learn to let go. Now, this is an adaptation of a story that comes actually in Buddhism, where the situation is there with two wild animals attacking, and he's holding onto a root. We can add to the story like this. Then the root, the flimsy thing he's hanging on to, there's a rat that comes and starts chewing. And he notices a beautiful strawberry and has a moment where he says, "Oh, look at this wonderful strawberry." In other words, not looking at the difficulties presenting themselves and finding solutions, hanging on to something, hanging on in this case to the external world in the form of pleasures, things that delight the senses, on the basis that this world is so limited, so finite, and I should take advantage of it by using all the senses that are recipients of information and all the senses that correspond to as a reaction, as we call, karmendriya and jnanendriya. Jnanendriya first and then karmendriya. And this is my world and this is how I should behave. But there are alternative ways. Practicing the divine presence is the best way, whether we believe in impersonal or personal. Belief means whether we relate most to one or the other. And eventually we'll discover what Ramakrishna himself says. Both are true. You see, when Ramakrishna has a vision of the form, Mother Kali, and describes it later to us, he's not describing a female form. He's not describing a form which is with long, lolling tongue and so on, characteristic of Mother Kali. He's describing an ocean of light with billowing waves from all directions. And then he's seeing these in Mother Kali too. So he has this alternative thing. And when we take the form in the depths of meditation, out of love for us, the Supreme creates a form for the devotee. And Ramakrishna is comparing it like ice. You can say an iceberg. An iceberg has form. And so there is really no difference between the ice and the water. The water you can compare to the formless. The ice you can compare to a form. They're really the same thing. Now we'll add to the story the devotion of the aspirant to the form. Let's use the analogy of the ice, melts the ice into the formless, the impersonal. Then we get a real experience so that whatever we see has a form. But actually, a close examination will show that there's a unity. Supposing we apply this at the workplace. Supposing we see these two alternative views. Supposing we see the same energy that is creating my hurt and my reaction is the same energy used for people to say all kinds of things. Then something shifts in my psyche. What shifts? A painful understanding. An understanding which we describe as a trouble, as a difficulty. It all kind of dissolves and dissipates. And ultimately we find there is one glorious unity there. I never noticed it before. What will I do? I'll train myself to notice it. I'll train myself to notice it in every person, every place, every event. I'll train myself to see consciousness being displayed in this way as various roles, as various personalities, as various scenes, as various events. So like this. Now we have, I see some question in chat. If I can, let's just access it. So chat, let's press this. Okay. So one question comes here, Swamiji, how do we reconcile trust with discrimination so we can point out injustice when we see it? Hmm. Well, Ramakrishna answers this question with the story that I'm sure you all know about the holy man that came to a village, and the village warned him, please don't go this way because there's a dangerous snake there, dangerous cobra. And just for repetition's sake, I'll tell you the story. So he goes through there and he's not concerned. He knows how to handle snakes because what is he seeing? He's seeing the infinite possibility, even in a snake. So there he goes, and sure enough, the cobra comes out, and just about to strike, the holy man gives a lecture. My dear snake, what are you doing? Biting. Do you realize you're terrorizing all these village people? This is not good behavior. What are you getting from it? Is it enhancing your karma? Is it a way to behave? I know that the nature of a snake is to bite only to get food, surely, or defend itself, not to attack. And then the snake says, well, what can I do, master? And then the holy man gives him a mantra. He becomes his guru and teaches him the better way of behaving and instructs him, please don't bite. And the holy man goes on his way. After some months, comes back, looks for his disciple, the snake, and can't find him anywhere. And then asks the village people, what became of the snake? It was so dangerous to you. Oh, well, we saw he became very thin and very tame, and maybe the village boys took him by the tail and dashed him against the rock, so we haven't seen him much. But anyway, it's safe to go past. So he goes and looks, and there under the rock, he sees this thin figure, something like barbed wire, a dazed figure, cut and bruised everywhere. What happened to you? Well, master, I took your advice. I never bit anybody. And so the poor children, they did this. They took advantage of me and so on. And I became a vegetarian also. So I no longer eat frogs, only herbs for me. And that's it. And the reply was, foolish snake. My instruction was, do not bite. I said nothing about hissing. From time to time, we have to wisely apply hissing. Now we come to Swami Shivananda. My Upaguru, my sannyas guru, was a disciple of Shivananda, Mahapurush Maharaj, whose birthday is today. And some problem he had, and he wrote to his guru, and he was stationed at that time in Colombo in Sri Lanka. He was a school teacher. He was actually the headmaster of the Ramakrishna Mission School there. And he wrote to his guru with all his difficulties, expecting some kind of guidance and compassionate reply. And he got a shock. The reply was something like this: you are a grown man, think for yourself. And that stung him to the quick. You're a grown man, think for yourself. But he realized, the wisdom in this, that instead of relying, having a dependence for decision making of this or that and the other from his guru, he realized, I have to work it out for myself with my God-given abilities, my talents, and so on. So you see, this Mahapurush Maharaj was a mixed person, not a confused person, on the contrary. But we see such a great mixed personality, such great characteristics. On the one hand, firm, disciplined. On the other hand, extremely loving, compassionate. And there are many examples of his great compassion. His natural tendency was to spend his time in contemplation. He did this for many years in Varanasi. even tolerating, as it were, and accepting very, very impoverished conditions. But he built up a solid spirituality there. And then, of course, when Swami Brahmananda, the first president of the Ramakrishna Order, the Ramakrishna Mission and Mutt, passed away, went into his Mahasamadhi, then Swami Shivananda was given this position, which lasted for a long, long time. And many developments happened during his tenure. The whole organization grew from strength to strength, but there were difficulties and there were problems. One problem was that there was a movement toward Indian independence. And solidly, the president, Swami Shivananda, said, I will not get involved in politics. We are not a political organization. We are dedicated to the fundamental truth that we find and the practice of it. This is why we are here. We are doing the most compassionate and charitable work, offering people a way to their own freedom. And this is not from politics, because Swami Vivekananda never engaged himself. And we recall, of course, how Sister Nivedita had to dissociate in order to follow her most valuable path of encouraging political insurgents. So there has to be some judgment there. And when we talk about how do we reconcile trust with discrimination, the word discrimination is an impassive word. There's no emotion in it. Naturally, sometimes our reaction would be hurt or anger, something like this. But then after a while, we have to count the proverbial 10, reassess the situation, and then respond with wisdom. That means we do something, no doubt. Absolutely. We hiss if necessary, but there's no venom in the bite. We don't bite. Bite is venomous. And therein lies the difference. We trust in our judgment. Part of the trust is trust in our own judgment. I hope I answered your question. Now, I wondered, did I answer your question also?
You did. The difference with the historical and the non-historical, and kind of clarified quite a bit.
Okay, that's good. That's good. All right. And then we have to ask Marina, did I answer your question?
Yes. I actually have been thinking, Swami, maybe this can also be a question that I need to change the way I do japa, because I was actually inspired by a film that is very famous. Probably you have heard about it, which is Eat, Pray, Love. And I remember there was a yogi that had his own little shrine, but it was much more simpler. The way that he had it, he had the picture of the guru, and that was it. And then the rest, it was just like candles, but it was in a dedicated corner. It was quite pronunciated. So actually, I wanted to speak to you if you were coming in here to London, or maybe you can give me some advice now in how to build a better place of worship, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, now I'll tell you something funny. Many of my Indian devotees have two shrines because there's a tendency to make one just a place of clutter. So a shrine is a place where God dwells. Your personal ideal, your Ishtadevata dwells there, lives there. It helps, of course, to have a picture or a symbol of your chosen ideal. And you concentrate on that. Yes, your guru and that chosen ideal are the same thing, but make it simple. Absolutely. Make it clean, make it simple. Now, Indian devotees, bless their hearts, they go to India and somebody gives them a statue of Ganesha and something else and something, and they put that in a kind of cupboard, and they consider their shrine, and it's typically in a kitchen. And I say, keep it in the kitchen, and that is good, and light your lamp and so on and so forth. Do your sanja there, all good. But for spiritual practice, you need a special place. Now, what is helpful in this, Swami Vivekananda in his Raja Yoga gives first steps, and he described beautifully how this place should look, and also the atmosphere that you can build up in it, because that's the secret of shrines and church temples and mosques. You build an atmosphere because only loving thought of God, non-demanding love of God is taking place there. Prayer, japa, meditation is taking place there. And yes, I will come. I will intend to go to some devotee's house. I won't mention the name, in Amersham, and I know you're close to there, so that's a chance for all of us to get together and meet you nicely. Either when is it? Either next week, in between the 2 weekends, or the weekend or week after. I have to finalize my itinerary on it, but I'll let you know.
Swami, just to let you know, from the 15th till the 19th, I will be in Spain. I won't be here.
Okay. All right. Then it looks like we can do it. You'll be back the week after that, is it?
Yes.
All right. We'll find a place. We'll liaise on that together anyway. All right.
Okay.
All good.
Just a final question, because I also do have my little statues from Buddha and Lord Ganesh and Lakshmi. So should I put that somewhere else that is not going to be in the place? Because you mentioned the kitchen. Actually, where I have it, my living room is united with my kitchen. So how should I organize it?
Well, I think I need to go and see it, or you can send me a picture of it. That'd be okay.
Okay.
And then we can organize it and reorganize it from there. I'm not saying you shouldn't have all these forms of varying forms of the same entity of your Ishtadevata, but you have to create a focus. That has to be, everything has to be there. The clue is very much like this. You may have seen, I'm sure you have seen temples, and also you have seen the Born End shrine room, where only 3 figures are there. And it's the holy trio. Ramakrishna is there, Holy Mother is there, Vivekananda is there. And in most of the temples that you go to, and Shri has sent us some photos of what is there in Dehradun, for example, but all pretty standard, that there is one central figure there, and all the worship goes there. At most, there's an additional 1 or 2. So whatever is useful to you, and it's an individual thing, that is helpful in directing your attention toward your personal ideal and not digging countless wells everywhere. All right.
Thank you, Swami.
Good. Well, if there are no further questions, I want to read something of the teachings of Swami Shivananda. And I'm not really one for telling people the biographies, because this is just information that you can look up anyway. There's a book that I'm using, and so I can recommend the book. And this book is The Saga of a Great Soul. The Life and Work of Swami Shivananda is the name of the book. It is written by Swami Vivedishananda, and it's glimpses into the life and work of Mahapurush Maharaj. Now, if you read also today's thought, if you're on the EBS chat, you'll see that I have a thought there which describes, encapsulates the personality of this great soul. So there's an interesting introduction to this book, or it's really the first chapter of it, and it says something very, very interesting. It tells us, here is the story, it's actually the foreword. Here's the story of a saint, a natural saint, one might call him. For just a few men in every age are born with a natural genius for science or the arts, a genius which manifests itself already in their earliest years. So also there are a very few, who are born with spiritual genius. And Swami Shivananda was one of these rare beings. It would be my aspiration for us to have such an obituary for ourselves. Swami Shivananda's life may be said to consist of two main parts, each equally interesting and important. In the first, we see him as a seeker of truth and a monk hungering for the highest, losing himself in contemplation and meditation, growing in spiritual stature and wisdom, and laying up treasures in the spiritual realm. What a beautiful introduction. What a beautiful way of telling us how we should shape our life initially, because once we do that, we automatically become teachers. Once we're accomplished in spiritual life, we then are teachers. Does it mean that we sit in a classroom? Does it mean we give lectures? No. It means that our light shines. You cannot hide your light under a bushel or a bed, said Jesus. It is there for everyone to see. And that becomes transformational. In your work situation, that's what you should do. Be the light that beams everywhere. Don't be subject to people trying to blow your candle out. So that's how he starts off. There is one incident where we find Swami Shivananda connected, or at least his father is connected with Ramakrishna from the very start. And the incident or the question to Mahapurush Maharaj is on the 21st May 1922. It was a Sunday, it was about 8:30 at night. At the Belu Math, Swami Shivananda was sitting in the outer veranda of the main building overlooking the sacred Ganga. Those who've been to Belu Math will understand what I'm saying. And some monks were sitting or standing near him, and one of them asks him in the course of conversation, is it true that the amulet of the master meaning Ramakrishna, which is worshipped here, that is, as one of the relics there, was given to the master by your father? And so Swami Shivananda replies, while the master was suffering from an excruciating burning sensation all over his body, my father asked him to wear an Ishta Kavacha, that is an amulet containing an inscription of the mystic formula pertaining to his chosen deity or Ishta Devata. I'll just pause there because this is a device. The device is that if you carry the name, it's a way of tuning your attention into the Ishta Devata, chosen idea, and you're literally carrying it as an amulet. I often joke with people, well, it's not so much a joke, that I also wear an amulet. And so I don't know, I've asked some people before what it is, so those people who know the answer can tell. But it is, in fact, on my wrist, and no doubt we can see it here, okay? It's a watch. Some people call it a watch. I call it an amulet, because it's a device that puts us in connection with Kala, time. I am time. Krishna says this a number of times in the Bhagavad Gita. What is time? Well, you can say it's a record of the sun's movement, or our movement around the sun. It's a sundial, if you will. But it's also a reminder that every second is a golden opportunity to put a new thought, a thought which is, and so this is an amulet. Now let us just continue. So then the devotee says, were you at the time at Dakshinaswar? And Swami Shivananda says, I was not even born then. It happened during the days of the master's spiritual practice, his sadhana. My father used in those days to visit Dakshinaswar now and then. He used to practice as a pleader at Barasat because he was in the legal profession. In fact, he was connected with many landlords, including Rani Rasmani, as a legal practitioner, and used to earn a good deal of money. He was a great tantrika sadhaka. I remember how he used to invite many tantrika sadhakas from Kamakhya, paying all their expenses, and worship the Divine Mother and practice japa. I remember one sadhaka who used to sit at japa with a bottle of wine. He would drink a little from time to time and continue japa throughout the night. There was a curious incident here. I wasn't here, but at our carol service, and the parish priest came with a bottle of wine and asked discreetly, can I offer this to you as a sugar offering? And the monk who was here said, no, we don't drink. But you see, here is a different approach to it. And I'm not saying we should have wine or alcohol or anything like this, but every single part of daily life can be transformed into something spiritual. This is called the tantric system. Anyway, he says, I, however, did not know that my father visited Dakshinaswar. I learned it afterwards from the master himself. The master generally never asked anyone about his home affairs. And one day he asked me, I don't know why, but I feel a desire to ask you and about your people. Where's your home? And I mentioned my village, and who is your father? Kanai Gosal, was my reply. On hearing that, he exclaimed, oh, he was a great spiritual practitioner, a great sadhaka. He used to practice japa in the Kali temple here, wearing a red silk cloth. He used to bring a man with him who would sit behind him singing mother songs, and tears would trickle down your father's face. And as he would come out of the temple with his eyes all red, he would seem to me like a veritable Bhairava, I should say. And at that time, I had a terrible burning sensation all over my body. I said to your father, you know many things. Can you tell me how to get rid of this burning sensation? And he advised me to put on this amulet. And that relieved me. Then the next question, well, who made this for the master? And Swami Shivananda replies, that I don't know. It's all the only thing that the master taught me. Now, also, where did you first see the master was a question. And he answers like this. Was it at Dakshinaswar? No. It was at the house of Ram Babu. What's the point of telling you all this? To show how the divine arrangement comes to us to organize our spiritual life effortlessly, just in a responsive way. So he says, no, in relation of Ram Babu, that is Ramchandra Datta, a prominent lay disciple of the master, used to work in the same office with me. He would visit the master and often tell us about him at the office. And so this is how it arose. And you see, even when he had to earn a living and leave his education, he had to go to Delhi. He was given a job there. But there he inquired about this Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And even in Delhi, somebody told him, the only person I know who has this experience is there in Dakshinaswar. It is Ramakrishna. Then what did he say about Samadhi? Ramakrishna say, I don't remember it in detail, but I remember that he dwelt on Nirvikalpa Samadhi and said that very few can attain it, and that if one attained it, one's body dropped off in 21 days. I did not have any talk with the master on that occasion. A month after, I went to Dakshinaswar and became known to him. This is what he heard about Nirvikalpa Samadhi and some of the things that Ramakrishna had said. But you see, Ramakrishna himself was 6 months in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. This alone will tell us the remarkable uniqueness of the Ramakrishna. Now, in terms of his teachings, just before we finish off, I'll just read from teachings. This is a compilation, a summary of the life and teachings of most of the disciples of Ramakrishna, compiled and edited by Swami Purnananda, who was not only General Secretary, but also became the President. It starts off like this. It is only by doing selfless work that the mind gets purified. And when the mind is purified, even the slightest suggestion will fill your heart with devotion for the Lord. If the mind is not purified, you may practice japa to any extent. Nothing will result by way of spiritual progress. What can japa do if the mind is full of selfishness, jealousy, hatred, etc.? They're wonderful teaching. It is because the country is engrossed in inertia that Swamiji, meaning Swami Vivekananda, has prescribed work as a means to raise it up. But it is also telling about this age, whether you're in the east or the west or the south or the north, that we are all engaged in some kind of occupation out of necessity. We may therefore as well adopt a selfless attitude toward work, make it karma yoga. He says if one practices meditation and japa regularly along with work, then there will be no trouble. We have to work, that is certain. But then if one doesn't practice meditation, japa, etc., along with work, then one will not be able to work in the right spirit. The whole trouble is about me and mine, which always seeks comfort. Meditation and japa are absolutely necessary. There should be no lapse in them. When you meditate, think that you and he alone exist. I'm going to repeat this. This is an invaluable instruction. When you meditate, think that you and he alone exist. He or she, whatever your Ishtadev is. And forget everything else. Work, forget it, and whatever your circumstances are, gradually you have to forget even your own existence. If work makes the mind impure, it is not good work, but is an evil one. The right kind of service is possible only when one sees God in the person served. If you're working with a colleague, think that you are serving this person. But also, one suggestion I always have, if something is so occupying your mind, a circumstance or a person, then make them the subject of your meditation. Put them there and see and feel God in them. Do that. Feel the highest principle within them. Feel your Ishtadevata within them. And continue until you actually feel the tangible presence. You have to use the full capacity of your imagination to do this. You have to imagine the person sitting there on a golden throne or a lotus flower, put garland of flowers around their neck, look at the eyes and see the transformation of their face into that of your chosen ideal. If you do this, do you think there will be a change in the person? Of course there will be. Undoubtedly there'll be. And there'll be a recognition. There you are. It doesn't matter what you say anymore. It doesn't matter whether you're polite, whether you're rude. There you are. I recognize you. I recognize your face within this face, your light within these eyes, your sound within the speech. So that's a practice that can be taken up. Anyway, this is an answer to some questions and also a little bit on some of the wisdom that we find in that beautiful life of Swami Shivananda. All of these people, you can get details, inspirational details on their life. There are many books published from Swami Chaitananda's book, They Lived with God, God Lived with Them, these two books. And from this summary book, republished now as the disciples of Ramakrishna, not only the monastic disciples, but others also. And this particular book on Swami Shivananda, which is a very inspiring book, and it is available also under the title of The Saga of a Great Soul, Life and Work of Swami Shivananda. Many details are there, which we haven't got time to address here. So we leave it at that. Thank you. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you.
Om